The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Variety Channel. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericavariety.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Welcome to Crime Prevention 101 with host Susan Bartelstone. We're so happy you've joined us. Over the next hour, you'll learn the tips, tricks, and vital information that'll help you keep yourself confident and safe. Now, here's the host of Crime Prevention 101, Susan Bartelstone.
Hello there. And I'm so glad that you've joined me tonight because you know what? There's nowhere that I'd rather be than right here with you. Now, on November 24, 1971, a skyjacker who became known as D.B. Cooper parachuted out of a Northwest Airlines flight and into infamy, somewhere over Ariel, Washington, with $200,000 of extorted money, never to be seen or heard from again. And this case has intrigued law enforcement and amateur sleuths alike, including me, for more than 40 years. And tonight, I'm speaking with journalist Geoffrey Gray, author of Skyjack, The Hunt for D.B. Cooper, and he is the first person to have access to confidential FBI files on this most enduring of cold cases. Then, if you caught the show last week, I talked about a rash of gropings and attacks on women happening right here in this neck of the woods, Brooklyn, New York, to be exact, my neck of the woods, and law enforcement does not seem to be able to get a handle on this. And I issued a call to Brooklynites to step up and be creative and come up with ways to help each other. And several groups did. I don't know if they listened to the show or not, but they did. And tonight you're going to meet one of them. I'm going to be speaking with Tracy Hobson from the Center for Anti-Violence Education about what they're doing about this. And you know what? In these days of reduced police forces and more budget cuts, this could very easily be happening in your community, too. And this is a model program for what can be done everywhere. And then, last but not least, you better start making out your holiday shopping list because I've got lots of suggestions for personal safety products that will help you keep your loved ones safe. Well, this is Susan Bartelstone, and you're listening to Crime Prevention 101, coming to you live from New York City. Well, we're recovering from a freak snowstorm that happened the day before Halloween, and some of us in the Northeast are still without electricity and power, and you know what? It's pretty cold outside. So if you're sitting around your iPod listening to Crime Prevention 101 and trying to stay warm, I'm going to heat things up for you tonight with intrigue and inspiration. Now, let's talk about a cold crime caper that's hot, hot, hot. The intriguing D.B. Cooper crime case. And on my phone tonight, I'm delighted to welcome journalist and contributing editor at New York Magazine, Geoffrey Gray. And he is the author of Skyjack, The Hunt for D.B. Cooper. Hi, Geoffrey.
Whoops, I'm sorry about that. I got so excited thinking about the Cooper case, I just jumped in there.
Well, I'm excited, too. And, Geoffrey, you've been quoted as saying, what about the Cooper case so far hasn't been absurd? Now, for those few listeners who are not familiar with this case, break it down for us. Describe what happened here.
Well, you know, most of us at this point in time in the sweep of history have flown on airplanes. Mm-hmm. And so imagine yourself, you know, it's the night before Thanksgiving and it's, you know, it's freezing out. You're in the Pacific Northwest and you're expecting to take a short 29-minute flight from Portland to Seattle. And you sit in the back row and you look behind you and you see there's a guy back there, and he's sort of dressed unlike the other passengers. He's wearing this dark trench coat, and he's got these sunglasses on, and he's clutching in his arms a briefcase. The plane takes off, barrels down the runway. Finally, it's in the air, and the man turns to the stewardess, and he says, "Miss, I want you to look at this note." And she thinks he's hitting on her, so she puts this note in her purse and just forgets it. The plane up in the air, the man is becoming ecstatic at this point. Miss, you got to take a look at this note. So finally, she goes into her purse and she reaches in and she grabs the note and she looks at this message. And the first thing she notices about the message is that the handwriting on the note is actually very elegant. It's almost like whoever this guy was, he was an artist. He printed his words in a very sort of stylistic kind of font.
Mm.
And his message to her was very clear. It said, I have a bomb here. I would like you to sit by me.
And this, of course, is way before any kind of screenings and Homeland Security, right?
Absolutely. This is way before, the retina scans and all the kind of mishigas that we have to go through today in the airport. Actually, it's the reason why we go through it today.
Did he really have a bomb? Does anyone know that?
Well, she thought he was joking, and he opened the briefcase, and she saw all these wires and what looked like dynamite, red sticks. Now, one of the things I learned in the Cooper case was that dynamite is actually not the color red. I mean, dynamite is red in the cartoons, but actually real dynamite is colored beige or orange, not red. So
this might not have been a bomb at all.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, a lot of FBI agents thought that the red sticks that the stewardess saw were highway flares. But the FBI
she believed
were
it.
not willing to take that risk. And
sure.
What transpired was a 3-hour hijacking that culminated in the release of the airplane's rear stairs high over the Cascade Mountains. And this hijacker, who had demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes, and that was brought to him by the FBI agents when the plane had landed in Seattle. And after it had taken out over the mountains, he jumped. And when the plane landed in Reno to refuel, the FBI agents stormed it, and what they found was that several things were missing. One of the things that was missing was all the money. One of the other things that was missing was one of the parachutes. And the last thing that was missing was him. And now, 40 years later, nobody knows who was it that boarded this plane on that day, and who was it that had the guts or just the absolute craziness to board this kind of flight and release the stairs in midair and jump over the most remote wilderness in the continental United States. This is the area where Bigfoot's from, where Bigfoot lived.
Bigfoot, yeah, he probably is out there with Bigfoot. Now, D.B. Cooper is not actually the correct name. There was a whole mess of stuff about this case. Where did D.B. Cooper come from?
Well, the name D.B. Cooper actually came from an error. It was this evolution of this blunder that happened during the hijack. And what happened was there's many versions of the story, but the one I believe is the most correct and has been the most verified is the following. A wire writer out of Portland named Clyde Jabin was he was on the job during this hijacking. The hijacking was big news. So he calls up his FBI source and he says, hey, you guys got a lead on the suspect on the plane with the bomb. And the FBI source said, yeah, I sure do. And Jabin said, well, what is it? But as they were talking, the phone lines were really staticky and they couldn't hear each other so well. This is, again, 1971, so the communications hadn't really come all that way. So the FBI agent says, yeah, the suspect's name is D. Cooper, because the hijacker had given his name as Dan Cooper. So he said, D. Cooper. But through the static, the reporter couldn't hear him so good, so he said, is that D as in dog or B as in boy? And the FBI agent said, yeah, that's right. D.B. Cooper, D as in dog, B as in boy. The reporter scribbled it down, put it in the story, sent it over the wire, and then out came D.B. Cooper.
And that's how he's been called that ever since, D.B. Cooper.
Right, and it's the regality, that sort of stately, rhythmic ring of the name that has helped learn the legend. And also the FBI wanted that way. They didn't want the real name Dan Cooper out. They wanted D.B. Cooper out because they thought that if they were the only ones that knew that the hijacker's name was Dan Cooper, that could help them and help weeding out suspects. And one of the most fascinating things about this case is that there's been over 1,000 suspects and persons of interest in the case. I mean, that is extraordinary.
One of the more absurd things. But I want to talk about that, too. But before that, they don't even think Dan Cooper was his real name. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I mean, when they looked at the flight manifest and they saw that the hijacker had given his name as Dan Cooper, they thought for sure it was an alias. But they didn't know what it meant. They thought that Dan Cooper was kind of like a low-grade Mike Smith, or like a version of John Doe, just a very Main Street-like alias. But now what we now know, and what we've learned very recently, is that the Dan Cooper name was a huge clue, and the FBI had totally missed it. And what Dan Cooper, what the name signified, was that it was actually the name of a French comic book hero who flew airplanes and jumped out of them with parachutes. And the connections between Dan Cooper the comic and Dan Cooper the hijacker are so eerily similar that it's very likely that the hijacker named himself after this comic book hero, and a comic that had never been translated into English. And it's a huge clue that a lot of people are trying to look at right now.
So do we think that he might be French?
There's, among the very varsity level Cooper sleuths, there's a huge faction out there. I actually count myself as one of them, that believe the hijacker is Canadian, or Canadian in origin, from French Canada.
And maybe that's why he wanted to bail out. Well, do you think he really intended to bail out there, or he just, this was a spur of the moment thing, knowing that the FBI was going to be waiting for him when they stepped down to refuel?
It's unclear whether or not he knew where he was on that flight. The flight was at 10,000 feet, and it's possible through scattered clouds that he could have seen some markers, whether there are airports along the flight path. There's like a whole, an entire school of thought, 6 months of research, into that whole, that question, could he have known? The bottom line is that some people believe that he did know where he was, but the majority of people have come to the conclusion, or the majority of Cooper sleuths have come to the conclusion that he likely did not know where he was.
But he certainly must have known the FBI would have been there. I mean, did he really think he...
This is an area here, this is an area where, there's maybe 3 or 4 FBI agents covering this terrain, and there's tens and thousands of square miles of rugged terrain. This is an area without street lights. This is an area without stop signs or roads. And
well, Bigfoot lives there. This is wilderness.
Right, it's raw wilderness, and the best way out is probably on Bigfoot's shoulders.
So you think that he did intend to parachute out?
Absolutely.
And make his way somewhere.
Right, but one of the things that we know is that one of the things I learned going through the FBI files for the first time, which is what my book is kind of based on. I mean, it's about a lot of things actually, but a spine to it is the facts that I've never before seen for the first time from directly these FBI files. And what the facts show is that the parachute that Cooper jumped with was actually a conical shaped chute, and it was a military chute. And what that means is that it was very difficult for Cooper to steer the parachute as he came down to the night sky. It was also a very difficult parachute to release the ripcord. So there's one school of thought that he actually never was able to pull the ripcord. But those who don't believe that say, well, how come the money's all the money's never been found, or how come we haven't found a body? So it's just one of these mysteries. There's just mysteries within the mysteries.
And that was another thing that struck me, that he asked for $200,000 in $20 bills. Now, that just seems like a very large package to be carrying when you're jumping out of an airplane.
Well, absolutely. With the bundle of booty weighed 22 pounds. But the truth is that there's a little bit of misreporting there, and that when Cooper actually demanded the money, he didn't demand it in $20 bills. He actually just demanded it in American currency. And $20 bills is what this one bank where the feds got the money from had on hand. So he didn't ask for $20 bills. He asked for a quote-unquote American currency. And that clue, American currency, is kind of curious, right? Why would somebody ask for American currency if they're American?
Of course. That's the French-Canadian thing. All right, listen, Geoffrey, we're coming up on a quick pause. Stick around. We've got lots more to talk about on this fascinating case. And you can find Skyjack, The Hunt for D.B. Cooper. It's on Amazon.com.
Stimulating talk.
It gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The #1 Internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
Protect yourself and your family with MyForce, a personal security service accessed through a smartphone app that acts as your dedicated safety escort. The one-touch alert connects to a live monitoring team that provides the authorities with crucial details to expedite help. MyForce provides emergency response with the user's exact location, physical description, known safety issues, and medical conditions. MyForce offers monthly subscriptions at $11.99 per month, or save with the annual plan of $119 a year. As a listener of Crime Prevention 101, receive $20 off an annual subscription by using promo code CP101. Visit myforce.com today.
Violence, theft, drugs, graffiti, it's all part of joining a gang. In times like these, we need to protect our kids and our community from gangs. Gangs often prey on teens with low self-esteem who perform poorly in school and who seek a sense of belonging. Protect kids from gangs. Know who they're hanging out with. Encourage them to become involved in school activities. Give kids a positive alternative to gangs. To learn more, visit ncpc.org or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Streaming live, the leader in Internet talk radio, voiceamerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now, back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
Yes, welcome back. And this is Crime Prevention 101, where we've got an optimistic perspective on a sober subject. Don't forget to check me out. I'm on Twitter @CrimePrevent101. I'm on Facebook, Susan Bartelstone. My new fan page, Crime Prevention 101, is coming soon. I promise you, people have been asking. It's coming. Make sure to check out my CrimePrevention101.com blog. And I got a quick tip for you, online shopping, right? Holidays coming up. Lots of bargains online. If you're using an unfamiliar website, contact them they usually list a phone number. Give them a call first. Make sure it's a working number and that you can reach them in the future if there's any problems. Check them out on your favorite search engine or Yelp or some kind of similar online resource. If you don't like what you read, take your business elsewhere. Got lots more tips for you coming up. Now let's get back to Geoffrey Gray and the hunt for D.B. Cooper. All right, Geoffrey, welcome back. Now, he's got his $20,000, he's got his $200,000 in American money that he asked for, $20 bills, jumps out. Now, they did find some of the money, right? That's one of the other little intriguing mysteries.
Right. I mean, the only true, legitimate, 100% clue in this case is a complete baffler. It's a clue that is almost more mysterious than the mystery itself. In February of 1980, a boy was with his father, and they were going to cook up some hot dogs with their family. He got down on his knees on a sandbar along the Columbia River, which straddles the states of Oregon and Washington. And sweeping away some sand, he found what all little boys hope to find when they dig around in some sand: money, buried treasure. And literally this money was charred away at the edges, and it was all $20 bills. And when they brought home the money at night that day, a friend said, "Hey, that's $20 bills, huh? That's kind of curious. I bet that's D.B. Cooper's money." Sure enough, bingo, it was D.B. Cooper's money found almost 10 years later after the hijacking, and in a spot that was in a completely different direction than the flight path, miles apart. So how did the money get to this spot that was miles apart? It couldn't have fluttered down, in the air.
Right, I was just going to ask you that. There's no way that it could have floated out of his bag.
Every river, it was very unlikely that a flood could have brought in it, or another
almost $6,000
tributary
that he found.
Right. So how did the money get there? It's actually one of the things that I did for the research in my books. I followed. There's the D.B. Cooper community is alive and well, and it's a sizable community, and people are very actively engaged in the case. And one of the things that I did was I followed a forensic scientist, a paleontologist actually, who the FBI used to analyze parts of this money. And this paleontologist actually released his findings on his own website called citizensleuths.com like 2 days ago. So people should definitely check that out.
What was the website again?
It's called citizensleuths.com.
Citizen Sleuth?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's a paleontologist. He's actually going to be one of many people who are going to be presenting. I'm actually hosting this D.B. Cooper Symposium on November 26th in Portland, Oregon, and it's going to be sort of a gathering of the minds, completely open to the public, and an event where Cooper sleuths from all around the country are actually going to come together in sort of like a convention-like, style meeting and present different kinds of findings on the money or different findings on the case. I mean, various aspects of this case will be explored from the money itself to different suspects and even the culture of the case. I mean, there's just a lot of interest, especially because this is the 40th anniversary of the hijacking. It's going to be a huge crowd. And one of the things...
Now, Geoffrey, if anyone wants information about that, give out the website for that.
It's the information on the symposium, it's completely open to the public. It's going to be at the Portland Hilton, which is downtown Portland on Saturday, November 26th. And it's going to be, tons of presentations. There's going to be a D.B. Cooper T-shirt design contest, a D.B. Cooper poetry contest. I just found somebody who plays the banjo, and she's going to show up and play music. And so it's going to be like a real kind of D.B. Cooper-alooza kind of event. But people really, take this case seriously, and they're going to present some serious findings. And back to the money for a second. Okay, so to get the information, if you want to come to the symposium, if you're interested in the symposium, all the information about it is on my website, which is huntfordbcooper.com. Huntfordbcooper.com. Very easy to remember, and it's all there. And if you have the means, or you're going to be in the Pacific Northwest, definitely come because it's going to be just a one time only event. And after the event, we're going to go to the annual D.B. Cooper party in Ariel, Washington, which has been going on consecutively for 40 years. So it's going to be a real cool. And Susan, you should definitely come. And
I would love to.
You can host your show from the West Coast.
Oh, very tempting, very tempting. Have to check this out with you afterwards, maybe. All right. Well, let's get back to this. They found almost $6,000, and that was it. Now, had they marked the money when they gave it to him? Or they done anything to keep track of what it was? So how could they be sure it was those $20 bills?
It was not marked in the way that we think money's marked with dyes or explosive powders or anything like that.
Serial numbers?
The serial numbers were recorded on microfiche.
Okay.
So they knew all the serial numbers, and they checked the serial numbers of some of the bills, and they matched. And
so somehow D.B. Cooper got from wherever it was that he jumped to that point in the river. And do you think he buried it there, or it just fell, or how did it get there?
In the absence of information or any clear answers, there's only speculation. But one of the things that this scientist and his team were able to find when they analyzed the money, like as they might analyze a dinosaur bone with the most high-tech microscopic technology and a very intense lab, they were able to draw some conclusions from the money, and they believe that the money itself was planted. And one of the reasons why they believe it is because when the boy and his father found the money, there was rubber bands around the money, and the rubber bands actually just kind of crumpled off. And the scientists actually did some testing on rubber bands and found that rubber bands actually deteriorate very easily in the environment. And a rubber band couldn't really survive in nature, even buried in some sand, for more than a year, they found. So this rubber band test suggests the money itself had arrived at that location very recently.
Really? So do you think that D.B. Cooper planted it there?
Well, I haven't talked to him in a long time, so it'd be difficult to find out for sure. But
somebody got a hold of the original money and held it till 1980 and planted it there.
That's the theory. So the other question is, where's the rest of the money?
Indeed, and that never showed up.
And for maybe if your listeners know, you should definitely let me. Come to the symposium and let us know, because one of the things
Why not?
is I'm trying to collect all different kinds of tips that people have about this case, anything that people might know, or
all right,
any kind of
association. Now, Geoffrey, you mentioned earlier there have been over 1,000 suspects in the case. People that claimed they were D.B. Cooper, people who claimed that they're relatives. There was a transsexual or something that claimed it, and the FBI came up with some new information. Anything credible on this at all turn up? And is this and explain what the Cooper curse is?
Well, a bunch of questions in there as to new credible information. Other than knowing that the hijacker probably named himself after a French comic book, which was a discovery kind of made maybe 2 years ago, I don't think we really know much more about the crime other than some, this testing, the scientific testing is interesting, and other, different kinds of, theories are interesting. But there's nothing that is definitive or conclusive. And the problem, one of the things that I learned in doing the research for the book, is that the items or the elements that would be theoretically conclusive and really close the deal in this case, namely good forensic matter for the FBI to test and compare against the suspect, is missing. There are no real good DNA bits in this case. In fact, the only evidence that I found that could have potentially yielded conclusive DNA, the FBI is still looking for. Either they've lost it or it's just gone missing. And these are the 8 Raleigh filter-tip cigarette butts that were in the hijacker's ashtray on the flight.
Ah.
These, if somebody is able to find these cigarette butts, that, in my opinion, would probably be the quickest way to solve the case, because we could use the saliva embedded in the cotton fibers of the cigarette butt and use that genetic code to match against the 1,000 or more suspects that are out there, if not more.
They disappeared?
Libraries.
They disappeared? Unbelievable.
Vanished. I mean, when I was working with the FBI, in the research of the book, the current then case agent just had no idea where they were. I mean, he requested all the evidence to test again for traces of forensic matter, and everything pretty much that was on the plane was brought to him except the cigarette butts. Nobody knows where they are.
And that was probably the best clue to, like, DNA or whatever that they might have. Now, very quickly, the Cooper curse. What is this?
The Cooper curse is, the Cooper curse is what happens to you when you spend and devote your life to solving the case. And just when you think you're about to crack it, it's sort of this weird thing that, either it comes through the crack in the door, or I don't know how it finds you, but it just has a way for people who really spend their lives and have dedicated a large amount of time. It just has a way of keeping the hijacker hidden, either whether it's just kind of altering. I don't know. It's just this weird supernatural kind of force that prevents people from discovering who the hijacker is. And that may sound like hoochie coochie. But, if you really sort of follow the case and you've really tried, and I encourage people to actually, this is a good obsession to have. I mean, if you like mysteries, if you like true crime and really want to engage with one of the really unknown, unsolved mysteries of our time, this is your case. And
all right, Geoffrey, I got to ask you, what do you think? The mystery still stands. We don't know, but you've been devoting a lot of time to this. Do you think that he lived through the jump? He survived the jump. Do you think he's still out there?
Excuse me. That was the Cooper curse right there, getting me. I think he lived. I think he survived the jump. Whether Cooper is still alive, I hope he is, and I hope he does show up actually at the Cooper Symposium on November 27th.
That would be amazing, right? Do you think he's a debonair gentleman thief or folk hero or something entirely different?
I mean, one of the things you find out quickly is that there's really 2 stories in the Cooper case. There's D.B. Cooper, the myth, the debonair gentleman who was polite to his captors and dressed in a suit and tie. and made away with the perfect crime. And there's the real story of Dan Cooper, which is that he was actually dressed with a clip-on tie, a suit that was maybe the color of burgundy, like a leisure suit.
Really?
His hair likely was dyed with shoe polish. He might have been wearing pancake makeup.
Oh, my God.
Coupon cigarettes. He was a man who probably was extremely depressed, bordering on suicidal, and was really coming from a different place. And what's unique about this crime and why it's lasted is that D.B. Cooper, the myth, the hero, is really, he's become somebody we want to believe in. He's become a legend. And one of the reasons why he's become a legend and why the case resonates so much now is that he possessed all the qualities that we sort of want our heroes to have and are sort of missing from our lives now. He was an individual. He possessed extreme amounts of courage. He took the ultimate risk, his life.
And never spent the money.
Well, we don't know.
Apparently. All right. Well, DB, if you're listening, go to that symposium and reveal yourself after all. Geoffrey, thanks for being with me tonight. Skyjack, The Hunt for D.B. Cooper. It's on Amazon.com. Check out his Geoffrey Gray's website, huntfordbcooper.com. Thanks, Geoffrey.
Thanks so much.
Let's run into each other one day in New York City, all right?
Well, let's see. I'll see you at the symposium.
Okay. All right, coming up, a community that's almost under siege after a rash of gropings and sexual assaults, and what people in the community are doing to help keep their neighbors safe. Stay tuned.
Talk, talk, talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. That's it. VoiceAmerica.com.
After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime, How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.crimeprevention101.com for more information.
You're walking alone. A group of people is hanging out just ahead. Suddenly, they surround you.
Hey, yo, where you going? Come here.
Before you know it, you're being robbed. It's called a pack robbery, a robbery involving a group of assailants, and it can be violent. In times like these, trust your instincts. Don't become their next victim. Avoid suspicious groups. Avoid desolate or poorly lighted areas. Be aware of your surroundings. To learn more about pack robberies, visit ncpc.org or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now, back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
Yes, welcome back. This is Susan Bartelstone. And don't forget, Crime Prevention 101 is available on iTunes. You can take us with you wherever you go. I got another online shopping tip for you. Look for signs that a site is secure before you make a purchase. And you want to look for something like a closed padlock, and it's going to be up in the browser's status box. Now, sadly, however, even the most secure website can be hacked. So you may want to use gift cards for your online purchases rather than your own credit or debit cards. That way, if a site does become compromised, your credit information is safe. Just make sure to save the gift cards that you use and make a note what you purchase with them just in case of returns. And I'm going to be posting more online shopping safety tips on my blog, crimeprevention101.com. Now, let's meet Tracy Hobson, the Executive Director of the Center for Anti-Violence Education in Brooklyn. Hello, Tracy.
Hi, Susan.
Now, Tracy, on my last show, I talked about the rash of attacks and gropings on women and young girls. There have been more than 20 since last March, and these have occurred mostly in Brooklyn, a little bit in Queens, but for those that don't know, these are boroughs of New York City where I broadcast from, and the police haven't been able to do anything to stop these perverts. I think that they think that it's like three that are responsible for all of them. And Tracy, last show I put out a call, and not just in New York, because in these days, reduced police forces, budget restrictions, this could be happening anywhere, and we all need to start working together and be creative to help each other. And several individuals and groups in Brooklyn that you probably are aware of stepped up. I think we talked about it. A security guard named Tim Malloy started a volunteer escort foot patrol with several other licensed security guards, and he's been at some of the F-train stations, subway stations, which is where a lot of these gropings took place, and they stand there from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. and they walk women home if they feel they need an escort. And there was a messenger dispatcher. His name is Jay Ruiz, and he started a bike patrol. And he now has 11 members. And he said that these guys are checked out by local police precincts, and anyone who wants an escort can call him, and he'll dispatch someone to accompany them. And he says he gets calls every night. So have you heard about this, Tracy?
Absolutely, and we've been really heartened in the midst of all this uproar and these really, unfortunate attacks that there has been this community response. And it's been really wonderful. There's been the Brooklyn Bike Patrol, as you've spoken about. Also, Safe Walk is a program that was formed by Safe Slope, and they're an organization that just started because of these attacks and in response to them.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. Now, talk a little. The Center for Anti-Violence Education is part of this community effort. And just to give my audience a little background, tell them what the Center for Anti-Violence Education is and what it does.
Sure. Well, we have been working in this community and throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City for the past 36 years. And we provide violence prevention, self-defense, martial arts, and empowerment programs to communities especially at risk of violence. And so we focus primarily on women and children, and by children I really mean youth, starting at 6 years old, teen women, very much a population in need, and also LGBT communities, particularly homeless youth. And in doing this, we work with a lot of survivors of violence, and we provide free programming for survivors of sexual assault and rape. And we also provide everything else on a sliding fee scale, because we really believe that everyone has the right to learn these skills and the ability to protect themselves.
And you are a nonprofit organization,
mm-hmm.
which I think is fantastic. And in addition to the sliding scale fees and the free courses for victims, you offer daycare, babysitters.
We do. For our on-site programs, we offer free child care. And we feel that this is really important. We have a bedrock commitment to low-income families, and we know that really this can be something that can hinder someone from being able to access these services. So that's a very important part of our programming. And we also do work throughout the city. So we partner with 60 organizations at least a year, from rape crisis centers to schools to churches to organizations, companies and financial services even will call us in and have us work with their employee network. So it really does vary.
That is correct. They're able to do programs all over the city. And I don't know if you know this, but I knew one of your founding members, Annie Ellman, back from my days with the National Women's Martial Arts Federation when I was teaching self-defense as well. And, of
mm-hmm.
course, Brenda Jones, one of your senior staffers, she and I have crossed paths many, many, many times.
Absolutely. They're both actually very much involved with the organization still. Annie is now our program director, and Brenda teaches for us in multiple classes and courses throughout the city.
And these were some of the best martial artists and teachers out there. So I know the quality of what you're teaching. Now, talk about what you've been doing to help the members of the Brooklyn community during this groping crisis.
Well, what occurred initially was a very strong response from the community, and people came together and they started signing petitions demanding that they be able to receive free violence prevention and self-defense programs. which we think is absolutely wonderful. And our local politicians, Councilmember Brander and Gonzalez and Quinn, stood up and said, they're right. These services are absolutely needed. They contacted us and they said, can we please provide free self-defense workshops? And so that's what we started doing. And we've reached over 900 women. We've had classes in Chinese and in Spanish and in English. There have been multiple locations in the areas that have been attacked. And there's just a huge need because there's really a huge fear.
No, people were terrified. I mean,
Absolutely.
You can't walk out of a subway at night without being scared. And it's not just from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. This is at all times.
Right. Yes.
And I saw that there was a big coverage of this on TV where you could look like a couple of hundred people in one of the parks, and you were just teaching kicks and blocks, and it must have been amazing.
It really was. It's very empowering, and as you know, if you've been a martial artist, that when you're physically active in this way and you're learning how to block your head or do a kick, it can also really help you feel more empowered to stand up for yourself in different ways and to use your voice. And that's one of the most important self-defense tips or techniques that we can use is yelling and making a scene. And so it's really empowering and wonderful to see so many people together learning these skills.
Absolutely. And I also pointed out on the show last week, there were more than 20 assaults and attacks, but a number of the women fought this guy off, or one of the three. They think there's three. And sometimes just giving out that warrior yell was enough to deter this attack.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Most of the women were able to get away by yelling and causing a scene. And that's something that we know it can take attackers by surprise. They sometimes expect us to be a certain way, and when we can throw them off in any way, it can give us a window to get away and escape.
And there was just a recent thing, I heard it on the news this morning. Another woman fought off an attacker. She actually physically yelled and kicked, and she videotaped him as he was running away. So I'm hoping that might prove a break in the case. But they think there's more than one, correct?
Right. Yeah, they think there are a few, unfortunately.
And you and I were talking off air. I have a real problem with the word groping. Most of the attacks have been labeled groping by the media.
Right.
And I know I asked you to see if you could find out what the legal, if there's a legal correlation to this and what the penalty is, because it kind of trivializes what's really going on. But I don't think we were able to track it down. Maybe some of my listeners know what groping would be legally, and if there's anyone in New York, because that's probably different in every state. But we decided that this is sexual assault.
Right, and whether it's called a misdemeanor or a felony, the fact is that any kind of physical inappropriate touching leaves scars for a very long time. And, in some cases it's been attempted rape and rape, but we know that a grope, if that's what we're calling it, can really have a strong impact. And we've seen this particularly with young women. This happens so much more frequently than we realize in the city, on the trains, in the schools, at homes. And we've seen young women actually move from one neighborhood to another, go stay with a relative so that they don't have to be in the same neighborhood where they've been, quote-unquote, groped. It really does have an impact.
And one of the victims of the official groping was 11 years old, I remember. So they're targeting all ages on this.
Right, and young women especially feel even more less equipped than adults sometimes to handle situations and think they're the only ones that this have happened to. And so that's why we have free programming for teens as well, because it's just such a crucial issue for them.
Well, I hope whatever the penalty for groping is that it's significant enough, to keep, if we catch these guys, to keep them off the street. Any quick tips for my listeners before we wrap up?
Well, I would definitely say that the best defense we have is to try to prevent violence before it happens. So to trust your instincts, to pay attention, to not be listening to music, not be talking on your phone if possible, looking around, eyes up, head up, and trust your gut. Sometimes that extra second where you can hear somebody can really help you get away. And then using your voice and making a scene is always very helpful. It can bring attention. You can scream 911. You can just scream something to scare the attacker. But those are ways to help prevent something in the first place.
Absolutely. And take a self-defense course, right? They're short-term, at least one a year, right? The one you took back in college and you're now 40, you're not going to remember that. You got to take at least one a year, right, Tracy, to keep it fresh and useful for you.
Yes, it's very helpful. And we offer a lot of free programming on a sliding fee scale at CAE, so we encourage people to reach out to us.
Give out the website, please.
Sure, it's caeny.org.
caeny.org. I'm going to post a link to it on the show notes for this show. And also, I'm going to put my Big 10 tips for staying aware and being prepared in any situation. You can download that right from crimeprevention101.com. It's got a lot of useful tips. Tracy, great to have you on the show. What you and the other folks are doing in Brooklyn is really inspiring, and I hope people around the country learn from what you're doing.
Thank you, Susan. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Up next, get out your holiday shopping list. I've got some great personal safety products to tell you about, especially if you or your loved ones or friends are concerned about walking home late at night like these women in Brooklyn and Queens are. I've got stuff for you guys especially tonight.
Talk, talk, talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787.
That's it.
VoiceAmerica.com.
Protect yourself and your family with MyForce, a personal security service accessed through a smartphone app that acts as your dedicated safety escort. The one-touch alert connects to a live monitoring team that provides the authorities with crucial details to expedite help. MyForce provides emergency response with the user's exact location, physical description, known safety issues, and medical conditions. MyForce offers monthly subscriptions at $11.99 per month, or save with the annual plan of $119 a year. As a listener of Crime Prevention 101, receive $20 off an annual subscription by using promo code CP101. Visit myforce.com today.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now, back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
Well, I said it before, and I'm going to repeat it. There is no place else that Susan Bartelstone would rather be than right here with you on Crime Prevention 101. All right, I got one more tip for you. Turn your computer off after you finish shopping or when you're not using it, because if you leave it on, that gives the scammers and these cyber criminals the opportunity to install malicious software on your machine and control it remotely to commit identity fraud, identity theft, or other cyber crimes. And don't forget, check out my shopping safety tips on my crimeprevention101.com blogs. I'm going to post some tips on my Twitter, CrimePrevent101. You'll catch it there. And I've got all sorts of tips for you. Now, I want to talk about some personal safety products in light of the gropings and the sexual assault rash that's going on here. I've tried to pick products that might be helpful for that. But I just want to be very transparent here and say I have no connection with any of the manufacturers of any of the products that I'm going to tell you about except MyForce, which is my sponsor. These are products that I found or that people told me about or that people sent to me. And I like them. I would buy them for myself and my friends and my family. And since I consider you my friends, I want to tell you about them because I think they'll help keep you safe. All right, now my sponsor, you probably heard the commercial, is MyForce. And this is a fabulous personal safety service for any smartphone. And believe me, I had to get a smartphone just so that I could get this service. It's an app that you download. you arm it so that if you were in Brooklyn and you were coming out of that subway, you would arm that service. That alerts a 24/7 monitoring station that you think you might be in danger. They should stay alert for you. If there's a problem, my force can hear what's going on. They can record what's going on for the police. You can have it videoed. They can notify the police exactly where you are. It's got a GPS function and lots of other great figures. And you'll get $20 off on a yearly subscription if you mention CP101. And it was not expensive. It's a very good safety product. All right, another safety product that I mentioned before, and this is a terrific product. I loved it. It's called the Finder's Key Purse. And I got a couple, and I've been giving them out to all my friends. It's a decorative key clasp. They have 100 different designs of it, different colors. You clip your keys to it, and it clips over the outside of your purse. And your keys hang in the top of the bag. You don't have to go digging for them. Your attention is not going to be diverted, and when you want to stay alert and aware. If you need to get at those keys quickly, like if you're being chased, you have to get in your car, you have to get in your house. They are right there. You know exactly where they are. I love this product, and I really like it. Now, there's another thing that you want to use the Finder's Key Purse with, and that is your pepper spray. I'm a huge advocate of pepper spray, and you can, the brand that I like is Sabre Red, and they have a pink pepper spray keychain canister. It's about $10, and for an additional $3.25, you can get a practice can, which I highly recommend because you want to make sure you know exactly how to use it. And the reason that it is pink is because if you buy this, they will make a donation to the National Breast Cancer Research Foundation. So you're doing a good turn for for breast cancer as well. And you want to get your pink canister, and the Finder's Key Purse has a pink ribbon, the symbol of the breast cancer research efforts. So you hook your pepper spray up to your pink ribbon, and it's right where you want it because you don't want to be fishing around for your pepper spray. If you need it, you've got to have it quickly. That's the best way. I found another really cool website. It's called Safety Girl, safetygirl.com. They make a lipstick pepper spray. It looks like a canister of lipstick, so you can use it unobtrusively if you need to get at it. Or they're selling it, actually. They don't make it, but they're selling it. This lipstick canister is about $6.99. See, did I give you the pepper spray price? Yeah, $10 for the pepper spray. And the Finder's Key Purse is about $7. Just got to tell you that. All right, the lipstick pepper spray is about $6.99 on sale. I also saw on Safety Girl, it's called pepper spray pen. Doesn't look like pepper spray. It looks like a pen. So if you need to buy time, if you need to get your weapon unobtrusively, this doesn't look like it. They also show a mace pepper spray hot walker. If you're a power walker or a jogger, this looks like little hand weights, but it's really pepper spray. I like that. That was about $15. They had something called Sudicom Decontaminant Towelette for $2. If the pepper spray actually was to get back on you, and by the way, download my defense spray tips from my crimeprevention101.com blog. Got a whole lot of safety tips there. Find this one if you get pepper spray, and especially if you get it for somebody, give them the tips so they'll know exactly how to use it. You might want to pick up a couple of these Sudicom decontaminant towelettes just in case the pepper spray happens to get into your eyes. They have, the safetygirl.com has pepper spray also for joggers. I know that Sabre Red makes pepper spray for joggers, and they sell that brand there as well. They have it for cyclists also. You can hook it onto your bicycle. So if you need the pepper spray very quickly. If you ride, there it is. Safety Girl had a whole lot of other pink products where they will donate money to fight breast cancer. There was an emergency roadside toolkit, a pink regular toolkit, all sorts of different things that if you buy it, hammers and things like that, if you buy these things, they will donate money to breast cancer research. So safetygirl.com, a lot of good safety products there. All right, I found a pink Zap stick stun gun, $65, but it was on sale. This came from Heartland America, and it's heartlandamerica.com. I like stun guns. This thing is cylindrical. I know it's pink. They don't say anything about donating any money, but it's kind of cute looking. This is heartlandamerica.com. The world's smallest high-powered stun gun fits in your purse or your pocket, 800,000 volts. It's pretty good. Not available in certain states, California, Colorado, Florida. There's a whole list. And they also say, check your local, state, county, and city laws. There may be some restrictions on stun guns. All right, beststungun.com, another nice stun gun site. They had the Streetwise Small Fry Mini Stun Gun. I really like this one, about $70. And a nice little video there on using it. Stun guns are very good. They also had a stun pen for $70. It looks like a pen. I really like this. Well, it looks like a canister, let's put it that way. It doesn't really look like a pen. But it's nice and small. You can carry it in your hands. Nobody can see you. All right, you know what? I got more products for you. That's a wrap for tonight. Check back next week. I've got plenty more for you. Don't forget, we'd love to hear from you. Post your comments and suggestions on my blog. Let me know if you read any of the books that we talk about, or if you like the personal safety products that I tell you about on the show. Tell your friends about us. Have them join the movement. And you know what? You and I will be doing this again next week, same time, same internet. It'd be a crime not to listen. So stay tuned and stay safe.
We hope you got some useful information and inspiration this week on Crime Prevention 101. Susan Bartelstone invites you to join us again next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on Voice America. If you want to learn more about Susan's guests, sign up for her newsletter, or find out about upcoming teleseminars and workshops, go to www.crimeprevention101.com today. Have a great week and a safe week.